Well, good morning. Welcome to day 6. Um, the spent all night flailing around. Um, the marijuana detox has hit its peak physically, anyway. My dreams are back for sure. Couldn't quite remember the majority of the last one that I had. It was a big, crazy mix of everything. But I do remember the last 5 seconds of the dream, which was me stomping around some extravagantly wealthy person's house, thinking about turning on the gas and starting a fire. If that should tell you anything, but I remember the people in the dream were talking about how to get someone divorced. So I was like, you people don't need a house. So yeah. Anyway, but yeah. So day 6. Sweating in the sleep from flailing around. Vivid dreams are coming back, and yeah, feeling pretty good. Although still definitely having some shortness of breath. Excuse me, some shortness of breath, some shortness of breath issues. But it feels good, and I'm on the path. And yesterday, I spent some time at a friend's house who had a lot of drugs laying around, and as a result, I was tempted, quite heavily tempted actually, but even just wasting the 5 days that I had put in before that seemed unthinkable versus having a path for getting high. So I think that's a good thing. And it's good to test yourself, I think, when you're quitting, depending on the type of person you are, of course. Some people cannot be tested. They need to be insulated for a while before they can be tested, whereas for me, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's an ego thing, but I've always considered that if someone dangles a carrot in front of me, I'd rather reject the carrot out of spite for the person than at least that's how I've been in the past anyway. And I'm trying to move away from that type of behavior, but when it comes to quitting marijuana, it can actually be quite useful. And quitting drugs in general is because you're like, well, if there's drugs around me, then I'm not going to do them just to spite everyone. So, yeah, but obviously we don't want that to be our central theme for quitting. Anyway, the thought for today is really just to sort of recognize the advice that we've been getting about home buying. We've only been out 2 or 3 times. We've looked at probably 7 or 8, 9, maybe 9 houses, or 8 houses. I think we've looked at 8 houses, and we've put an offer and had that rejected, and we've thought about putting an offer in and then had the house pulled before the deadline. So I wouldn't say that we've had a really great experience, but our realtor's been excellent, and it hasn't been all that stressful, I would say. And it's got us thinking about alternatives, and maybe our financial situation and whether or not we should look to improve that. But regardless of all the specifics for that, everybody's advice has been largely the same, which is stick with it. And I'm starting to feel like sticking with it, when everyone's telling you to stick with it, like when your good friends and maybe your parents and the people that the universe knows are most closely connected to you, when all of them are saying, are giving you a message that's kind of unified, it's worth opening your ears up to that. And I know for some people it can be a message to rebel. You know, if everyone's telling you something, sometimes maybe you need to do the opposite. In Galileo's case, that was probably the thinking. But for us, these are all people who have been through the process that we're going through right now, and their advice, I'd like to think that it's at least better advice than I could give someone who's looking for a house. And because it's all the same, it feels like the universe is kind of like gently sort of pushing us along to do it. So I think the thought for today is when all of the messages and all of the signs point to something, that we should take notice of it, whether it is to agree with it or to follow those directions or to reject them entirely. I think we ignore that unification of message at our peril. And it would be easy to do that if you're stoned all the time or spending all of your time playing video games and kind of immersing yourself in a distraction. So, yeah. Anyway, that's the gist for today. Thanks again, and talk on day 7.